Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. It's your man, God of Dots. Back with a special episode of the Audible. We will be doing the NBA preview for the upcoming season tonight. So excited, so excited. NBA is back officially. Tip off is on the 24th, which is a Tuesday. And before the season kind of started, I want to get my 2 cents in, my predictions and my picks early in the season. We will be doing a revisit of this probably around the All-Star break, as teams are kind of about half a season done. Um, very excited about the play in season tournament they'll be having. I'm curious to see how that kind of works out. But hey, we're here. I want to kind of get into the NBA stuff, and who knows? I may or may not be over in the other space. May or may not be. I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, if we're gonna start it off, we're gonna start it off the proper way. How you doing, Miss Murphy? As always, if we're gonna start off, we're gonna start it off the proper way. We're gonna be kind of go from top to bottom, and if you're gonna start with the top, you got to start with the defending champions, the Denver Nuggets, who ran roughshod through the playoffs. Returned Nikola Jokic, who was a runner-up last year in the MVP, but the previous 2 seasons before that was the MVP. Could have made a case for him to be the MVP last year. That went to Joel Embiid. Congratulations to him. But if you're going to talk about the NBA's upcoming season, it begins and ends with Yoke. You're about to be very busy. No, Ms. Murph, like I said, with the NBA stuff, I may break big news, or maybe doing some uploads on some like major highlights and stuff like that. But for the most part, I'm gonna be locked in with the NFL until the season is done. Then we'll kind of pick it up around the All-Star break with the NBA stuff, and we'll kind of get heavy into that and kind of do what we did last season, but a little bit more. I kind of covered everything with the playoffs, game by game, live for live for live. So we may do a return to that for the upcoming season, but I want to focus in on, kind of like my picks, what's going on, who made moves, who's not making moves, who's looking like what going into the new season. Like I said, if you're not aware, season tips off on the 24th. The NBA is back. Yes. But if you're going to start, you got to start with the defending champions, the Denver Nuggets, who return mostly the same team, with the exception of Bruce Brown, who went and signed with the Indiana Pacers. They do. Denver brings back Yoke, Jamal Murray, another year removed from injury. I'm expecting him to be pushing for a All-Star appearance this season. I think Jamal Murray, with his run through the playoffs, reminded me of Bubble Murray. I think Jamal Murray, if health permits, and all of this stuff that I'm picking is based on if health permits. But I have Denver. They're not my favorite. I'm not going to say they're the favorite for me going into the new season, but I do think Denver's going to have something to say about who walks out of the West. I think the West is going to be once again very competitive. From top to bottom, every team kind of made additions to kind of compete. With the Denver Nuggets didn't really make too many moves in free agency. Moved a couple pieces, lost Bruce Brown, like I said, but they did have a Christian Brown or Braun, or however you want to say it. Did have him last year as a rookie who came on very late, showed what he had in the playoffs, former first round draft pick from Kansas, rookie last year. I expect him to play a lot better. And when you have Yoke on the court, when you have Yoke, who is at this point, you have to call him what he is. If he's not the top player in the NBA, he's definitely top five. When you have Yoke, is he remains healthy, you're going to be in the conversation for being the team to beat. You saw that during the playoffs. Denver just ran roughshod over everybody, and I'm not going to sit here and complain about who had bad breaks and whatnot. But Denver went out there and proved it on the court. I'm not going to take anything away from them. They played the Miami Heat. Though they were the 8th seed in the East, you play who you play. You play who's in front of you and whatever condition they're in. So no excuses. But if you continue to have Yoke as your top player, Denver, like I said, Denver's got to be in the conversation. Now, I don't know if they get the number 1 seed in the West. I don't have them finishing with the best record in the West, but I do think when comes playoff, depending on how the matchups go, and you saw a lot of that last year with the playoffs, who you matched up against, you you got a good chance if you're Denver. So if you pick Denver to be your team, to repeat as NBA champions, I'm not going to knock you for it. I'm not going to discredit you for it. I mean, it's a very good pick. Like I said, you have Yoke. If Yoke is healthy, I expect Yoke to put up once again MVP type numbers. I expect Jamal Murray game to excel. I have him pushing for an All-Star appearance for this upcoming season based on his body of work, especially what he did in the playoffs. Now, if you have any questions about Denver, for me, Denver, biggest question is Michael Porter Jr. ready to step in to be that solid, consistent number three. Michael Porter Jr. Showed flashes at different points. What's going on, grown? Let's go, Ben Simmons. Don't worry, we gonna talk about like the big news and big stories. Appreciate you coming through as always. But my biggest question for Denver coming into the new season is Michael Porter Jr. ready to take that next step and to be a clear, defined number three for his team at different points during the season. He was the number three. Other points during the season was Aaron Gordon, who I was actually surprised how well he adapted his game and changed his game since coming over to Denver. But Michael Porter Jr. is the question mark for me. I know what I'm getting from Yoke. I know what I'm getting from what's going on, Spot. I know what I'm getting from a healthy Jamal Murray. Like I said, the biggest question for me is Michael Porter Jr. Going to the new season with the Denver Nuggets. Michael Porter Jr. Playoffs kind of showed me something that the team didn't really rely on you as that true number three option on this team. I think with his skill set, when you're talking about spacing the floor, he allows Jamal Murray driving lanes. He allows Yoke to kind of work because he's able to move off the ball. But if he's got to be more consistent for me. But like I said, if you pick Denver to repeat as champions, look, I'm not mad. I'm not mad at that pick at all. It's a valid pick. It's a valid pick. But we're gonna kind of move on from the Denver Nuggets. For some people, that's the favorite out west. Not my favorite. We'll get into that just a little bit later. But when I look, we're going to start going over to the East. Like I said, I'm just going to kind of go down tiers and where teams at. The favorite going into the season, depending on who you ask, is going to be either Milwaukee or Boston. I'm going to start with Milwaukee, bringing over Dame Lillard. Huge move. You're talking about a player with Dame who averaged about 30 points a game last year, who game meshes very well with a Giannis. I think Giannis is going to come into the season highly motivated. They made the changes that needed to make, in my opinion. You get a guy who's able to go get his own shot, who's able to put up 50 on any given night. Nothing against Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday is a great two-way player. Drew Holiday is a way better defensive player than Dame is, but when you have a guy that on any given night, if Giannis is in foul trouble, if Giannis just doesn't have it going, or with the injury history of a Chris Middleton is not available for a lot of games. If you have Dame out on the court, Dame has shown throughout his NBA career he can go out and get it. Doesn't have to have a lot of talent out on the floor to go get it. But I like Milwaukee. Hey, if you're going to go chase a championship, be serious about it. Go chase a championship. Didn't give up too much. I mean, first round draft picks, unless you're like one of those bottom feeding teams, first round draft picks don't really have that much value for teams that are chasing championships. But I like the move of bringing over Dame Lillard. I do like them bringing over Dame. I expect Giannis to once again be in the MVP conversation. Like I said, he's going to be motivated. If I'm going to have a question for Milwaukee, obviously your defense takes a hit by moving on from Drew Holiday. Question I have for Milwaukee is how healthy is Chris Middleton? This will be his first time really playing with two superstar players on the court. Typically, past couple of years, he's been, you can make an argument he's been the second best player on his team, but he's going into this season the clear number three. How well does he adjust his game? I think that's going to be probably the biggest thing I'm going to watch for Milwaukee early on in the season. I know what I'm getting from Giannis. I know what I'm getting from Dame. How does Middleton kind of get his shots? When you have teams that have big threes or big fours, and we're going to talk about Boston in just a minute, when you have teams that have that many offensively talented players on the court, somebody eventually is going to have to sacrifice. Somebody is going to have to sacrifice their game. You saw that last year with the Denver Nuggets. Aaron Gordon coming over from Orlando a couple seasons ago. Hey, was a leading scorer of his team. Comes over to Denver, say, hey, I'll slide into that number 4/number 3 spot on this team. I'll get my buckets. However, I get my buckets. You don't have to really run any offense for me. Let me get my stuff off pick and rolls and putbacks. Somebody has to sacrifice for the game. So is Chris Middleton going to be able to sacrifice his game? Because a lot of his game is him handling the ball, him getting into some ISO situations. It's not really him moving without the ball to get his points, even though I think Chris Middleton is capable, and I think he's going to have to add that element into his game a little bit more for this upcoming season, because Dame is going to have the ball, Giannis is going to have the ball, and they're the two best players on your team. I think Middleton is going to have to find a way to kind of cut out his role as a number 3 on this team. But I do have, I'm gonna go ahead and say it, I'm gonna pick Milwaukee. Dame has the biggest sacrifice. I don't know about that one, Gron. I don't know about that one. Will Dame work, and is he a winner? Speak, what's going on? I think it works. I think you put Dame and Giannis in the pick and roll. Put Dame and Giannis in the pick and roll. Who are you running? Who are you running at? Who are you double teaming? I think it's going to be some struggles early on in the season. They kind of get acclimated to playing with each other. Giannis he hasn't played with a guy of Dame Lillard's ilk, and vice versa. You're talking about a big and a guard, guys who haven't played with each other. I think it's going to be a bit of a learning curve, but I do have, when it's all said and done, Milwaukee is looking for the playoffs. I don't think they're going to put too much stock in the regular season. I do think they're going to go out there and really be focused in on the playoffs, making sure that the chemistry is there and everything else is there. Because when you look at Milwaukee, I do think they have a bit of a better bench than Boston. And speaking of what's going on, Tree? Speaking of the Boston Celtics, made a lot of moves, brought back Jaylen Brown on a huge contract. Was able to acquire Kristaps Porzingis this offseason, was able to also bring in Jrue Holiday to replace Marcus Smart. On paper, you can make an argument the best starting 5 in the NBA belongs to the Boston Celtics, but I'm kind of out on Boston, just for the simple fact is, and simple fact that I don't think Jaylen Brown's game has changed. I don't think he's added too much. And for me, Tatum is, for him to be as talented as he is on the offensive end, he just doesn't have that take charge mentality. When we're talking about Boston and Milwaukee, regular season don't mean jack. Regular season don't mean jack to me. What can you do in the playoffs? And Boston has shown, even though they've gone into just about every series as the most talented team, that has just not been able to put it together for a 7-game stretch. The fact that you went down bad to a Miami team that was, Jimmy Butler and some guys. Let's keep it a buck. Jimmy Butler and some guys that you went down to that team, with all the offensive talent. Yeah, you forced 7, but it should have never went 7. It should have never went 7. And I think it's going to, I'm not sure what I'm getting from Porzingis. Yeah, like I said, it looks good on paper, but you're at a point now with Boston. I think Boston, biggest issue they had last season, not being able to finish games, and I think it was a worse defensive team than they were when Ime was the coach. The new coach, he did a fine job. Boston was able to go up and down the court, but you want to win in the playoffs when the games slow down, you have to have defense, and you saw that during that playoff run for Boston last year, defense was not their forte. Even though when you look at them on paper, talent-wise, they should be able to defend at a much higher level than they did last year. Hopefully, bringing in Jrue Holiday can kind of help that. But I don't see the difference between a Jrue Holiday and a Marcus Smart when we're talking about on the defensive end. Marcus Smart is one of the better defenders at the guard position, just like Jrue Holiday. How much does that change? How much, the culture for Boston has to be defense. have to get better on the defensive end. You're not going to just be running up and down the court, blowing teams out. It doesn't work like that. And if you need an example of what that looks like, look to the Phoenix Suns. Now, Phoenix is rolling out their big three. Picked up Kevin Durant last year in the trade, brought in Bradley Beal. So far, what I've seen in the preseason, Beal looked like he's going to be the one to kind of sacrifice this game, and I think he kind of works. The question you got to have with Phoenix is the same question I would have with Boston. What are you going to do come playoff time when you got to get defensive stops? Nothing against KD, nothing against Bill, nothing against Book, but Phoenix ain't got no defense. None at all. Grown says Brown seems lazy at times. He just, Jaylen Brown just, I mean, he's a talented player. I think he could be the best player on a lot of other teams, but come playoff time, he kind of gets out of himself. And I think that has something to do with Tatum. Tatum doesn't have that take charge kind of attitude. He doesn't have to take charge kind of attitude. But back to the Phoenix Suns. If I'm going to pick number one seed for the West, as far as the regular season is concerned, I think Phoenix gets it. I think offensively they'll be able to outscore a lot of teams. The questions I have with Phoenix when you get to the playoffs, who's going to defend? You moved on from DeAndre Ayton in the trade. You brought in Nurkic, who I think is a much worse center offensively and defensively than DeAndre Ayton. You got a couple, just guys filling in the role positions, but none of those guys are known for defense like that. Known for defense like that. You moved on from CP3. I can't blame you. CP3 is a much older player, but Phoenix, I think they're going to be good regular season playoffs. I don't know. Maybe if the head coach takes more of a emphasis, just like Boston, puts more of an emphasis on being a better defense team, because offensively those guys can go get it. Kevin Durant can go get 30 on a given night. Bill can get 30 on a given night. Book can go get 30 on a given night. I don't think offense is going to be the problem, but this team is going to have to be much better, way much better defensively than they were last season to really compete for an NBA championship. Speaking for NBA championship facts, Phoenix going to score a lot. Yeah, Phoenix is going to run up and down the court, bro. They're going to run up and down the court, and whatnot. And look, I'm not mad at it. If you put a big three, but somebody's got to sacrifice. Right now, it's looking like Beal, which I think Beal's. I think he can fit in well as a number three. But defense is going to be the problem. Defense, if you didn't learn anything from last year's playoffs, is that you learn every playoffs. The game slows down, the scores kind of drop down. You got to have defense. You got to be able to get stops in the playoffs. And let's be honest, in a Phoenix Nuggets rematch, I'm picking Nuggets. I'm picking Nuggets just for the simple fact Denver is a much better defensive team. And then you got a guy in Nurkic. Had problems. Everybody has problems just by guarding York, for with the exception of a couple of players. But Phoenix didn't get better defensively. I think Denver, is a team that's going to be kind of, they're built for the playoff series. They're not a team that's going to be trying to race out to the number one seed. I think if you get a rematch, Phoenix and Denver, and I got Denver. I got Denver. I just don't think Phoenix has enough defense to really challenge for an NBA title this year, unless they go out and make some moves, bring in some more defensive stalwart kind of guys. You're not winning the chip running up and down the court. Now you'll say, they look good on paper, much like Boston. They look good on paper, but if you can't defend when it's needed most, you're not going that far. You're not going out that far. And speaking of not going far, I see my Philly people in the building. What's going on in Philly? What is the vibe? I'm hearing so much news coming out of Philly that I'm kind of uncertain of where to really put them in the power rankings for this upcoming season. Yes, you bring back the reigning MVP Joel Embiid, but it's been reported that people from his camp have kind of expressed that he may be looking to move, how heavily invested he is into the season. And the man on your screen, I'm just gonna say this kind of, and this is just for you James Harden's fan. James Harden is going to find himself out of the league quicker than he can say, man, look, I understand you don't like the president. I'm pretty sure Maury probably had some back from side deal. Told James, we're going to give you big time money with a long term contract. That didn't manifest this off season. And I'm gonna be honest with you, why would it? Why would it? James Harden, had a very good season, double guy, heavy with the assists. I want to say James led the league in assists. He meshes well. His game meshes well with Embiid. But when it's money time, you saw what happened in the playoffs. You saw what happened in the playoffs. Um, and with Philly, you got the issue with James Harden looming over the season. It's been reported he hasn't shown up to practice for the last couple games. The season getting ready to tip off. What do you do? And is Embiid going to be able to make it through the season relatively healthy? You saw that the impact that he has on the game when he's healthy. You're talking about the MVP of the league. You see the impact when he's off the court. It's a different Philly team. I can sit here and critique Philly all day long because if I'm Philly, I'm trying to get what I can for James Harden, get him out of there. I'm also trying to get rid of Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris, for what you guys are paying him, has not produced. Has not really stepped up in that role when James may falter or Embiid is out. Tobias Harris kind of goes in the WITSEC, goes into witness protection. You can't find a guy. You hardly realize he's out on the court. He's not making any impact, but you're paying this guy like he's an all-star player. Why? For that reason, I do. Philadelphia's going to make the playoffs. But I don't see Philadelphia getting past the second round yet again. If everybody is healthy, I don't see them getting past the second round. I don't have Philadelphia being better than Boston. I don't have Philadelphia being better than Milwaukee. You can make an argument. You can make an argument that the Cleveland Cavaliers are a better team right now as constituted than the Philadelphia 76ers. So like I said, James Harden, go ahead. I wouldn't, I'm gonna be petty if I'm Maury. I'm not trading him to where he want to go. I'm gonna trade him to whoever gives me the best package. I go ahead and shop him, get what you can for him. He doesn't want to be there. If I'm Philly, what am I losing by having him here? He's a very talented offensive player, but James Harden, you're Philly. Regular season don't mean jack. You're aiming for the playoffs, and that's where it matters. All that matters is the chip. And James Harden has shown in his time in Philly, has shown in his time in Brooklyn, has shown in his time in Houston that when it comes money time, you can't count on the guy. You can't count on the guy. Game 6, Game 7 last year against the Celtics was the nail in the coffin for me. So, if you can get whatever, get what you can for James Harden, move him out of there. He doesn't want to be there. Trust me, James, wherever he goes, even if he went to the Clippers, they're not giving him the big long-term money. It's not happening. It's not happening. I'm glad Houston didn't bring him down there to poison the well with those young players that they have down there in Houston. But we'll kind of get to that just a little bit later. Moving on to possible title contenders. Of course, I'm gonna talk about my Lake Show. I'm gonna talk about my Lake Show, who I think got a little bit better in the off season. Got a little bit better in the off season. Brought in Gabe Vincent. Very decent point guard. No more for his defense, but can shoot the ball. And I think that's something that they needed. D'Angelo Russell, trust me, LA won't come out and say it, but they're looking for a trade partner. Get him out of there. He doesn't fit the culture of the defensive minded culture that they're trying to have. Too often in last year's playoffs, I saw him get taken advantage of time after time after time after time after time. Get what you can for D'Lo. I like, they was able to kind of keep their core. They didn't go all in with the free agency. Was able to kind of keep the guys, bring in some more guys. I like what they have in LA. LA has the same problem. So LA has the same problem that Philly has when we're talking about health Health played a big role in how the season kind of ended. LeBron is showing wear and tear. We're in year 21. Do I expect LeBron to play all 82? No. Hopefully he makes it through the season healthy. But the odds of that have gone down year after year after year. He's getting hurt a little bit more and a little bit more. Anthony Davis, I know I'm not getting 82. I've just got to learn to accept the fact that if I can get 65 out of AD for a regular season, I'm good with it. But I think LA kind of built the team to go out to the defending champions. If I'm looking out at the West, team with the best chance to possibly dethrone Denver, as it stands right now, is for me, it's got to be the Lakers. I know you can make an argument for Phoenix to having the offensive firepower, but I think LA, even though they got swept in the playoffs, those games were very close games. A play here, a play there, we could have had a different series, but Denver was a better team. But I think those young guys, Austin Reeves, Hachimura, Vanderbilt, get that playoff experience up under their belt. I think they'll be more ready for the playoffs. I don't think LA is going to be one of those teams gunning to try to run roughshod over the regular season. They're looking for the playoffs. They're looking for the playoffs. Doesn't seem like a leader being a point guard. Yeah, I mean, James Harden is such at this point in his career, man. It's like you're overvaluing yourself, dude. You're overvaluing yourself. You're overvaluing your work. But trust me, he opted in for a reason because his people, they went out there and caught feelers. Nobody was going to give him big money for long term. I mean, it was a lot of big money maybe for a short term deal, but not at the price range he was looking for. I mean, dude, you're finna get paid $35 million. Nobody else in the league was going to pay you that. That's why he opted into his contract with Philly. Now, you're doing all this grandstanding. You're hurting your value, man. You're hurting your value. I don't know what it is with Philly. I don't know what's something in the water, man. These guys just get there and act up or whatever. But speaking of acting up, Ben Simmons. I've been watching Ben Simmons this preseason. Is it safe to say Brooklyn, with a focused and engaged, I would say that focused and engaged Ben Simmons, could Brooklyn possibly be a top 3 team in the East? I mean, when you really look at their roster, it is a lot to like with their roster if Ben Simmons is engaged and healthy. You have Bridges, who's coming off a very good season, like Cam Johnson. I like what Brooklyn was able to do. With the moves that they made late last season. I like a couple of moves they made this offseason. Brooklyn with a healthy and engaged, healthy and engaged Ben Simmons. You've seen a lot of that this preseason. It look like he's got some of his confidence back. I think the pressure, of coming over from Philly, that kind of drama, kind of wore on him. Mentally, I think that's what his biggest issue was. Like he hasn't been right, on the court mentally since that Atlanta series a couple seasons ago. He just hasn't been right. But I think if you can get a healthy and engaged Ben Simmons, still a very good defender, very good creator of the ball. I have no faith in Ben Simmons anywhere for any reason. Hey, like I said, he if he's engaged, I don't think you look at him as being the alpha on the Brooklyn. If Brooklyn, I don't think Brooklyn's dependent on him to carry the team. But if I can get a healthy and engaged Ben Simmons, is possibly my number 3, 4 type guy. A guy that can create shots for others. And it's not people are not really talking about Brooklyn being in that conversation as one of the better teams in the East. A lot has been made about Milwaukee and Boston, and rightfully so, with the moves that they made. Cleveland is in that conversation. Philly, of course, because you have the reigning MVP. But Brooklyn is a sneakily good team. It's a sneakily good team. I'm curious to see if they can make a playoff push, and it's going to come down to matchups out east. I think they match up well with some teams and not well with others. But if if Ben Simmons is healthy and engaged, that doesn't put Brooklyn over Milwaukee and Boston, but I think that puts Brooklyn in the mix for that possible 3 seed out east. Injuries aside, injuries aside, injuries aside. Oh, y'all going at Miss Murray talking about he would never live up to the hype. I you know I when he's engaged, I like Ben Simmons' game, and he can't be my I think he's a good number 3 type player to have on the team. I got it, can be a very good, when he's engaged, he's one of the better defenders at his position. He's one of the better defenders, not just at his position, but one of the better defenders in the NBA when he's engaged. How engaged he's going to be this season, we'll see. I like what I've seen so far through preseason. It looked like he's got his confidence kind of coming back. Get that albatross of playing in Philly and the playoff failures that they had. Kind of get away from that. We'll see. We'll see. Another team that I'm looking at for the upcoming season to see what they kind of do is the Sacramento Kings. Now, I know she's probably listening. She'll probably catch the replay. That was Gator Girls team last year, and she had a lot of faith in them, and Sacramento paid off with the faith. But now you go from being an unknown to being one of the better teams out west. Is Sacramento with De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis, is this team ready to take the next step in their progression? You made it to the playoffs, had a very good series against the Golden State Warriors, but your youth kind of showed at times during that series at key moments. Is Sacramento ready to take that next step in the maturation process? Every team kind of goes through it. Even the Denver Nuggets kind of went through that maturation process. Year after year after year, guys get better. They learn a little bit more, get a little bit wiser. Is Sacramento ready to make that next step? I think Sacramento offensively is fine. I like the progression of De'Aaron Fox. I like Sabonis last year. I think this team needs to focus just a little bit more on the defensive side of the ball. I think they're a very talented team offensively, but I think they need to make a little bit more of an effort on the defensive end. But I'm looking at Sacramento, because the eyes are on you now. You're not the young upstart. You're not being looked over. Like I looked over Sacramento last year to my regret. Shout out to Gator Girl, but Sacramento, the eyes are on you. You're going to be looked at as one of the top teams out west based on your success last season. You're going to be maybe not in the same conversation with a Denver or Phoenix or LA, but you're going to be in that conversation as a team that's being looked at for the playoffs, i.e. Golden State Warriors, i.e. the Los Angeles Clippers. You're going to be in that conversation. Are you going to be able to build on that success for this upcoming season? But if anything was an indicator for last year, this is a young team. They went through a war with the Golden State Warriors. I think they'll be much better for it. We'll see. We'll see what the upcoming season kind of holds for them. Fox got another level. He got Fox game has gotten progressively better each year he's been in the league. I will say that. I will say that he understands what his limitations are now versus when he first came into the league. I like what Fox. I like Fox's game. I like Fox's game, and I like his confidence. But we're gonna see what second, like I said, you go from being a hunter to the hunted. Like teams are gonna be circling you on the calendar. You're gonna have some primetime games. People are watching what you're doing out there in Sacramento. Speaking of watching what you're doing, is this the last ride for the Golden State Warriors as constituted? That for me, that's biggest question for Golden State coming into the season. You moved on from Jordan Poole, which I felt you had to do to kind of maintain the culture that you have there in Golden State. You still have Steph Curry, you still have Clay, you still have Draymond, but is anybody else getting that last ride kind of feeling? Clay hasn't been offered a contract extension thus far this offseason. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to get a deal. I'm not sure he's going to be able to get the max deal that he's probably looking for his years of service. I talked about this last season when we talked about some of the new salary tax implications and penalties that teams are having to face. No longer teams are just going to be able to just throw money and just pay a little bit of luxury tax. It's going to come with some penalties, and Golden State finds himself at the front of the line. Gator girl, yes, I figured I'd shake you out with my Kings talk. Figured I'd shake you out on that one, but I'm looking at Golden State. Is this the last? Is this the last ride? Steph Curry is still playing at a very elite level, playing at an MVP type level. Clay has obviously kind of lost a step. Still able to shoot the ball like no other, but has lost a step on the defensive end. Draymond, we'll see, but is those role players, those young guys they do have. Gary Payton Jr. is Kuminga ready to step up and kind of assume larger roles with this team. I'm gonna be looking for that also when we're talking about Golden State. But Golden State is another team. Now we're going to be really focused in on the regular season, but going to be focused in on the postseason. Once again, matchups. The Lakers was a bad matchup for Golden State. I think Denver is a bad matchup for Golden State. Phoenix is probably a better matchup for them. If Sacramento progresses, I don't see Sacramento being a good matchup for them if Sacramento was able to learn from the mistakes. A team that nobody's really kind of talking about. Kuminga is nice. Kuminga's nice, but he's got to put it together more consistently. He's got to put it together more consistently. But a team that nobody's really kind of talking about that much for the upcoming season is it's surprising, but then again, it's not surprising when we're talking about the Memphis Grizzlies. Memphis, if you've been living under a rock, you're going to be without Ja Morant for the first 25 games of the year, serving a suspension for his idiotic behavior. But Memphis still has a very, very good team. Moved on from Dylan Brooks. Based on the talking and the performance last year, rightfully so. But I mean, you still have Desmond Bane, you still have the reigning defensive player of the year in Jaren Jackson. You did bring in Marcus Smart to share guard duties. Even when Morant comes back, I think Marcus Smart will be able to play in that lineup with him. You did bring in Derrick Rose for a backup point guard. He still has a little burst to his game, but nobody's really talking about Memphis just because Morant is out. And I think Memphis has grown accustomed, especially over the last 2 years, have grown accustomed to not playing with Ja. So I think Memphis will be okay. Now, do I have them in the upper echelon of the teams in the West? No, because if they had a healthy and motivated and clear-headed Ja Morant, I would have them in that upper echelon of the West teams, but not so much for the upcoming season. 25 games that's a lot of games, man. That's a lot of games to be missing. Of course, he's going to have to get back in game shape, so you might want to add about a good 5 to 7 more games on top. So you're talking about 30 games before Ja Morant is even sort of right. But we'll see. We'll see. I do have Memphis as a playoff team, but it comes down to matchups. It comes down to matchups. At the end of the day, it comes down to matchups at the end of the day. But I do like what they have in Memphis. I like the culture that they have in Memphis. Hopefully Morant, when he comes back from suspension, is focused and, not with the goofy stuff. How you doing, Dr. Nikki? I like what they got in Memphis. I think they got caught up last year, of course, with the problems with Ja Morant, but, I think they got caught up as a team, the culture. You guys talked a little too much and they did nothing. And I get it. Talking trash is part of the NBA, man, but you got to know when to talk and when to shut up. You got to know when to talk and when to shut up. But I think Memphis is in a very good spot. Them bringing over Marcus Smart is going to solidify the point guard position. I think he's still one of the better defenders at the guard position. I think he'll be able to play with Ja even when he comes back from his suspension. And I like the combo of Smart and Ja Morant in the backcourt. Though a tad bit undersized, but I think, Smart to be used more as a defensive stopper in that role and kind of take some of the pressure off Ja of guarding the team's best guard. So I like what they got in Memphis. You know, like I said, you have Jaren Jackson, reigning Defensive Player of the Year, who's a block machine. Um, I think his experience, the team, period. I think the team learned a lot. I think they're going to come in with a more humble attitude, more workmanlike mindset, and we'll see. I do have, like I said, I do have Memphis making the playoffs. A team that I'm kind of on the fence with is the Minnesota Timberwolves. On paper, and that's all you can look at this point right now, is on paper, they look like a playoff team out west. I'm not sure if this team, as constituted, makes it through the entire season. It's already been talks of teams kind of gauging the interest and then moving on from Karl Anthony Towns, who I like as a player, but the health issues is one thing. I think Anthony Edwards is ready to step into the alpha role of this team based off the season he had last year, the success he had during the summer playing for Team USA. I think he's gotten better and better, exponentially since he's coming to the league. I think Anthony Richards is ready to stamp himself as the guy. You come to Minnesota. The questions you got to have with Minnesota, if you keep Cat, does that line up front with Gobert and him? Does it work? I'm still tripping off the fact that they gave up 4 first-round picks to get Rudy Gobert. Good defensive player, but it's not life-changing. You saw that in the playoffs. It's not life-changing. But we'll see what Minnesota does. I think Minnesota, you got to be looking at Minnesota coming into the season. If all works well and everybody's healthy, I have them coming in maybe like a fighting for the 6th seed. Definitely maybe getting into the play-in tournament if healthy. But I don't know if this team makes it through the season. If I'm Minnesota, Anthony Richards is my guy, and I'm kind of stuck with Gobert. See what I can get for Cat. I think if you're able to move Cat for some high level talent, I think you might have something there. I think Cat will bring back a nice haul. If nothing else, in draft picks that you gave up to get Gobert, may be able to bring back a solid player. We'll see. We'll see. But I think Anthony Edwards, for Minnesota, is ready to step into that role as the top dog. Going into the season, he's got alpha written all over him. Grown said Cat needs a new home. Yeah, I think Cat needs a change of scenery. But I think Cat, first of all, man, you got to stay healthy, man. You got to stay healthy. I know what I'm getting when you're healthy, man, but you got to stay healthy. And I think he needs to, stop shooting. This because you can shoot threes. You don't need to make that part of your game. Look at Yo. Yo can shoot threes, but I'm not running plays for me to be shooting threes at the top of the key like that. Like, let it be something in your arsenal, but you ain't got to pull it out all the time. Punish these guys on the block, man. Punish these guys on the block. Show the the post game that you have. And if you get threes, on occasion, like Yo, take them. But just to be camping out of the 3-point line, I mean, to each his own. To each his own. Rudy's one-dimensional. Rudy's been one-dimensional since he's been in the league. Kind of getting to more of the contending teams. I do like what they got in Cleveland, bringing in Max Strus, a tough guy. Had a very good run with Miami last year. I do like what they got in Cleveland. Question you got to have with Cleveland is Donovan Mitchell finally ready to step into that role of go-to closer, scorer come playoff time. Like I said, I like what they got in Cleveland. I like how the lineup is kind of made. I like Jared Allen, like Mobley up front, guys who can alter shots, can block shots. Kind of small in the backcourt. With Mitchell and Garland, but those 2 guys can go get buckets just as well as anybody else. I like what they have in Cleveland. I think Cleveland, Brooklyn, Philly, they're in that mix for me right now. Is probably the 3rd best team out east, depending on who you ask and what day of the week it is. Like I said, I think Cleveland matches up well with Brooklyn, but I don't think Cleveland matches up well with Philly. And vice versa. It's about matchups, as it always is. About come playoff time. Before I kind of get up out of here, before I kind of get up out of here, I do want to talk about a couple of the rookies. I'm gonna start with Scoot, then I'm gonna go to Victor in just a second. I do like what I've seen so far from Scoot. Showing me a lot of aggressiveness. I think him playing in the G League served him well. Being able to play against grown men, be around grown men, hopefully learn some very good habits playing against grown men. And so I think he's going to be a very exciting player to watch for the upcoming season. And low key, I kind of like what they got in Portland now. I know you move on from Dame, and that's a big hole to fill. And I'm not going to say Scoot is going to fill that role, but I do like the combination of players that they do have in Portland. I think Portland to be one of those teams that you got to kind of under the radar. You got to watch for. I think they'll have a pretty good year. I do like Ayton. I think Ayton needed to change of scenery. I like Anthony Simons. I like Shaedon Sharp. Of course, Scoot. You have Jeremy Cran in there. I like what Portland has as currently constituted. And of course, they got some capital they can move if they want to take a shot at it for a possible deep playoff run. But Portland, I think Portland's going to be in the mix for the play-in tournament, if nothing else. I like the pieces that they have. I think they're going to have to get better defensively, of course. But when you look at the offensive talent, and it's young and it's raw, I think Ayton, like I said, the change of scenery will do him well. I don't think playing in Portland, and I think the expectations are a little bit lower playing in Portland. So I think his game is going to flourish just a little bit. He's not having to share the ball, share the scoring load with a ball dominant type guards. When we're talking about CP3 and Book from last year, and his time in Phoenix, I like what Portland got kind of going on. I'm not going to say they're the Sacramento Kings for the upcoming season, but if Scoot is able to, he's shown flashes during the preseason. If Scoot is able to kind of get into that role, possibly put about 15 a game. I like Anthony Simons' game. He's able to kind of go get it, like Shaedon Sharp. I like Aiden. I like Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant is a very underrated player. I like what they kind of got going on in Portland, man. I kind of like what they got going on in Portland. I'm not making them the Sacramento Kings for this upcoming season, but I like Portland. It's one of the teams to watch. And speaking of people to watch, all eyes in the NBA will be on Victor Wembanyama. And it's the first time in a long time that a number one pick is drawing this much attention so early on in their career. He's a unicorn. But I'm curious to see, can he make it through the 82 game season? The wear and tear on your body. I like what I've seen thus far from him. You're talking about a guy that's 7'4", can alter shots on the defensive end, has guard skills. I'm not putting San Antonio in that conversation of Portland as far as like teams to really watch, but I am going to be watching Victor. Like I said, the first number one overall pick in a very long time. The eyes of the NBA world are going to be on him. I don't think he crumbles under the pressure, and I think San Antonio is the right system and the right team and right culture for him coming into the season. Pop runs his stuff a certain kind of way. He's giving the young man opportunity to kind of get out there on the floor, kind of work through those growing pains. Like I said, the expectations are going to be very low for San Antonio. They didn't have the number one pick for a reason, based off last year. But I do like a couple of the pieces that they have. But I think Wembanyama is in the right place. I think he needs to put on a little bit of weight, maybe a little bit of muscle mass. Gator Girl says his handles is better than Jalen. Oh yeah. Handles his way, but like I said, I like watching Victor play, man. He's a unicorn. He's a very unique player. I mean, you just don't find guys that size that can move like that. Like I said, he's put a little bit more weight on. we'll see. Speaking of weight, um, Zion Williamson has looked good thus far in the preseason. I think he still needs to shed about maybe 15 more pounds, get into some real supreme shape. But I think he's coming to the season a little bit focused, a little bit more. I think he's down to like 284, which is, because he was about 300 last year. He was about 300 last year. I like New Orleans is one of those teams, if they can put it together, if Zion can stay healthy for a whole season. I mean, think back to last season when Zion was healthy. New Orleans had the best record out west. They had the best record out west. You still have TJ McCollum. You still have Brandon Ingram. I'm curious. It begins and ends with Zion. If Zion is able to make it through the entire season relatively healthy, we'll see. We will see what kind of team New Orleans, because New Orleans is one of those teams. This is the what if, and for them the what if, without Zion, this team is a shell of itself. It's just another team. You have Zion out on the court. They had the best record in the West last year when he was healthy. So I think he's looked good thus far in his limited time in the preseason. Maybe drop about 10 more pounds, bro. I mean, I think he's finally starting to take his diet serious. Take working out serious. Total package as far as game. Yeah, Zion's problem is health. Health is the only thing that's ever held him back. I mean, you can't stop him down low, and for a man of his size to move with the explosiveness and the quickness that he moves, but he's got to control the weight, man. He's got to be healthy. A healthy Zion, I mean, the sky could be the limit for New Orleans. Like I said, last year when he was healthy, they were balling out. They had the best record in the West. He gets hurt last December, team falls off a cliff. They're fighting in the play-in. They're fighting in the play-in. Like it can go from, I hate to say it, from sugar to shit with Zion. And he, if history has shown he can't make it through an 82 game season. History has shown that, but I'm gonna be watching. I'm gonna be watching him. I'm gonna be watching everybody, man. This is the NBA. Like I said, for those who kind of came in late, as far as like the NBA content, I may be doing some uploads here or there, shorts here and there. But I'm not going to really be dialed into the season until like the All-Star break. I'm gonna really be focusing on my NFL stuff. Then as the NFL kind of wraps up, it's around the time the All-Star break for the NBA, then we'll be back hard body with the NBA stuff. Do what we did last year in the playoffs. For those who didn't have time to watch the game, trust me, your boy got you. I put the highlights up for you, and all of that good stuff. But I'm really looking forward to this upcoming season, because I'm kind of looking ahead. In a regular season, I'm like an old vet. Regular season, it don't really mean much to me. I'm curious to see who makes it to the playoffs. First of all, who makes it to the playoffs? Who makes it there the healthiest? I think when you really look at how the playoffs kind of played out last year, health was a major issue. Just like it is with every season, health is a major issue. I think the Clippers, with a healthy team, they may have beat Phoenix last year. I think a healthy Giannis, the Bucks get by Miami. I know I haven't talked about Miami. That's I think Miami gets into the playoffs, but I don't see them making another run like they did last year. And the fact that you lost some of the core players that you had last year when you made your run, I don't see any big moves to be made. You really don't have the assets, with the exception of maybe a couple of first round picks and Tyler Hero, and Portland didn't want that. So we'll see. What's going on, brother of a certain age? Yeah. It's all about that big Serbian mountain in Denver. Yeah. So early, do not hold me to this, Gator girl. I have my picks. Do not hold me to this. Early predictions for the NBA Finals. I'm going Lakers over Nuggets out west. And I got Bucks. I got Bucks over Celtics out east. My NBA Finals matchup. I got Lakers and Bucks. I'm gonna have to go as currently constituted, and if both teams are healthy, that's a hard one. That is a hard one, and it's a hard one. I mean, I would have fun just breaking down that matchup alone. That is a hard one. Fuck it, man. That's just goofy. You know me, Gator girl. I like to go out on the limb. I'm gonna go late. If all things considered, all teams are healthy. I got Denver and Lakers out west. I got Lakers winning that series. And I got Bucks over Celtics out east. And in the championship, healthy. I'm gonna have to go late. Well, I'm gonna say this in your defense, Gator girl, because you was on Denver way earlier than me. I can see Denver possibly repeating, but I don't think if they repeat, I don't think it'd be as easy of a run as they had last year. Last year, you had some kind of fortunate breaks, and this, every team has to have those kind of breaks. But I think they'll have a much harder time getting out of the West than they did last year. You going Bucks, Denver? Okay. Bucks, Philly. Oh, hell no. Philly in the East? No. Not until they resolve the James Harden situation. No. No. If Harden doesn't play for Philly, like he tries to, hey, I wouldn't put it past James Harden if he finally gets on the court to be tanking. Like, nah, I'm sorry. I can't. I can't do it. I can't. Yeah, but I think it's going to be the playoffs is going to really come down just like it did last year. Really going to come down to who matches up with who, because some teams match up better with others. I think Denver's going to be in the conversation for the best team in the league. Phoenix, for me, I think Phoenix kind of focuses in on trying to get home court advantage. So I think they're going to be trying to race for the number one spot record-wise. But, depending on the matchup, I can see Phoenix being out of there in round one, depending on who they matched up against. It's all subjective. As we get closer to the playoffs, we'll have a better idea of who's who and what's what. But I just want to, like I said, season tips off for those who are coming in late. Season tips off October 24th, which is next Tuesday. Enjoy some NBA. Enjoy the NFL. This is the best time of year for sports fans. Baseball is kind of wrapping up. Football is kind of kicking in high gear. NBA is about to start. Hockey season has started. So much going on as it always is this time of year. My favorite time of year. Something always going on. Grown says comeback player of the year, Ben Simmons. I can see that. I can see that if he comes in focused and healthy, I could see him being comeback player of the year. I can see that. Come on, how quick? It's not about Joel, Gator girl. I have no doubts about Joel's game. He's the reigning MVP for a reason. But the James Harden distraction is going to hurt the team. The fact that this guy is, I'm not even tripping over the comments. The fact that you have been a no-show says you in business for self at this point. If I'm Maury, I'm super petty. I mean, I'll pay him 35 and have his ass report and sit at the end of the bench for all 82 games and tell have the coaching staff do not put this dude in. I'll make him come to the game. I think James Harden is worn out his welcome just about everywhere he's gone. He overvalues himself. Dude, you're not getting $35 million a year from any other team than the team you got it from this year. Go ahead, go out there and play. If James Harden comes back focused and engaged, the conversation changes with Philly. But as it currently stands, Harden ain't in. Joel has got, if you believe some of the early reports, Joel has got his eyes looking in New York, looking at the Knicks. to possibly make a move. Knicks is another team I didn't really kind of talk about. We'll see what they look like come playoff time. I do like Jalen Brunson, but New York is not box office. I don't see New York pushing for a championship. They not in that kind of conversation for me. A good team though, good team. I do think the Knicks are a playoff team, but if New York is able to, if it keeps going south in Philly, I mean, sell the farm, bring in Joel, having a totally different conversation. Having a totally different conversations. Ms. Murphy, finally, Miss Murphy, somebody with reason from Philly. Yeah, you guys are not getting to the conference finals as currently constituted. It ain't happening. I love Joel as a player. He ain't carrying that squad without Harden to the finals, conference finals. No, it ain't happening. It ain't happening. I like Maxey. Don't like Tobias Harris. Like some of the other pieces that I have. But nah. Joel's a great player, but he ain't that damn great. But let me get my behind up out of here, man. I've been talking long enough. I appreciate everybody for kind of coming in for my early, NBA preview. As always, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave comments. If you disagree with anything that I've said, feel free to leave a comment. I'll get to it. And I'm pretty sure as the season kind of goes, when I get into the season, I'm sure my Gator girl will be hitting me across the head with my wrong picks and wrong observations, like she always does. It's always appreciated, though. Always appreciated. But let me get my behind up out of here, man, because I gotta chill out for a little bit and debate on whether I'm doing something over there. Not sure yet. Not sure. But we'll be back. What's today? Friday. Yeah, we'll be back Tuesday with wrap up of week 7. Back again next Thursday. We're looking at the week 8 preview for the NFL. Next Friday, we'll be back to doing a freestyle Friday. Kind of, where I do those shows where we kind of mesh sports and social issues. So we'll be doing that next Friday on Freestyle Friday. As always, appreciate y'all coming out. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, man. My voice is, yeah, I've been talking too much this week. But anyway, y'all be easy, be blessed, have a good weekend. Y'all know the phrase that pays over here. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but every time you learn. And I'm out.